Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Anna and I'm a fiber artist living in Seattle, Washington. And on this channel we talk about knitting and sewing and spinning and all things fiber related. So thank you for being here with me. Today I want to talk to you about all the different things that I was working on in January. January was a very good mix of all of my crafty disciplines. I did sewing, I did spinning, I didn't spin, but I did fiber prep. And I did knitting. So I'm excited to chat with you about my projects. I'll start with knitting, and then if the rest of it you don't care about, you can click away, but we'll talk about knitting, we'll talk about sewing, and then we will talk about fiber prep because I did a lot of it this month, so stay tuned for that. We'll start with my sweater. This sweater is a pattern by Cheryl Mokhtari, who is from Coco Amore Knitwear, and I now don't remember the name of the pattern, but I will have it here so that you can see. I knit this back in 2023, I want to say, in like late spring, like maybe more April, May of 2023. And so I didn't get a ton of wear of it out of it after I made it. And then I was pregnant when the cold weather rolled around again. And I found this really itchy. This is a wool and Angora blend yarn. And it was super itchy. I was super sensitive to it when I was pregnant. And so I put it away again. And then I pulled it back out this most recent winter. I've had a baby and now I'm not sensitive to it anymore. I really like this sweater in the end. It has a good deep raglan, but it's not so deep that I feel like it's annoying. And it has this really pretty wide broken rib texture on the sleeves and the raglan, and it carries down the side and to the hem. It's very simple, but very effective. And I feel like I haven't seen very many people making it, but I do like it a lot. I don't know that it's like I would make another one like it a lot, but I do like it. And this has shorter sleeves than I usually do. This is more of like a bracelet length sleeve, which we'll come back to again on another piece that I have recently finished. But actually I don't have a problem with these. These are like nice and loose, and then they kind of taper a little bit around the wrist with this really short bit of twisted rib. But it's really comfortable, and I like this kind of soft grayish purpley color. So yes, that is my sweater. I can't remember the name of, but I really like it. The only thing that I didn't do the best job of is that you cast on the collar, knit it, fold it down, and then keep going. And I did not do the best job of lining up my ribbing, so it kind of angles a little bit. And that bothered me in the beginning, but I just think it's not that deep now, and I need to move on with my life. So I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm just going to keep wearing my sweater. So yes. Okay, first finished object is my finished feather cardigan. This is a pattern by the Knit Pearl girl, Sophie, and it is originally written to be knit with three strands of mohair, which I think is why it's called the feather cardigan, because it's like really lightweight and fluffy and beautiful. I knit mine with 2 strands of unspun. This is the Briggs & Little Country Roving. I really like this yarn, but it behaves very differently than a lot of other unspun yarns I've used in the past. It's a lot denser, a lot stiffer, a little bit more hard wearing, I would say. But yes, this is my feather cardigan. I finished it at the very end of January. I think January 30th or 31st I cast it off. So I've worn it a couple times then because this video is coming to you a little bit late, but I'm quite pleased with it. I will put a picture of how it fits on me so you can see, or a little video, like a little try on video. Overall, I'm really happy with this. This is definitely, the fit is a little different than I usually make. I'm a pretty like oversized cozy girl, and this is definitely a little bit more of like a tailored fit. It's a little bit more cropped than I normally go, and I think the sleeves are like they end at the end of my wrists when my arms are straight, and so when they're bent they kind of ride up. And because of the taper of the sleeve, I think I would love them a little bit more if they were like an inch longer. I'm gonna live with them a little bit longer before I decide to lengthen them or not, but overall, I'm really pleased with this sweater. I really like how polished it looks. It looks very professional. I chose this pattern because I wanted a very particular style of cardigan. One of my favorite people to follow, not knitters, but like fashion inspo people, is Maya Gelber. And she wears this cardigan all the time, and I love it. I love the like thick collar, rounded collar. It like sits really nicely, and then it's just kind of oversized, but a good length. I really like this cardigan, and so I wanted to replicate it, and that's why I chose this pattern. It was essentially because of the neckline, and I feel like it's actually like between inspiration and final product quite close, so I'm really pleased with that. This was my first time knitting a pattern from Sophie, And I was surprised by how long the pattern is. So if you're someone who gets a little bit overwhelmed by really long patterns, like maybe take a beat to think about it. But this pattern was like 35 pages long for a drop shoulder stockinette cardigan. So that was like a little bit surprising to me, but she does offer a lot of explanations for all of the techniques you'll use. So I would say her pattern's probably very beginner friendly, very approachable, as long as like the text is not overwhelming to you. What else? I really like the shoulder detail on this. You do like a 2-stitch shoulder detail on the back. You cast on the back, increases to shape the back. And then this is another thing that I've never seen before in a pattern that I've made, is that the armhole, or like you do increases gradually along the back panel instead of doing all of your increases for the armhole right at the bottom, which I think makes a really nice fit. The sleeves have a little bit of short row shaping at the top, which I'm not sure I love. I feel like it kind of creates a little hump here, but it's not as noticeable when you're wearing it. I also kind of tried to like steam that out. I basically, after I wet blocked it, I like put the sleeves this way and then used my garment steamer to kind of like steam out any creases. I find often when you wet block something flat, because the sleeves are like folded in half, you can get some weird creasing on there that kind of can cause them to like stick out a little bit. So I tried to steam that out, and I do think it helped a little bit. But it does look really nice and clean. There's the shaping on this is really nice. The details are very well thought out. I would make more patterns from Sophie in the future. I am currently working on one. I bought it at the same time as I bought this pattern, but I would do more of her patterns because I just feel like she really thinks through her designs really well and does a great job like putting together a piece that is very tailored and polished, and like all the details are very intentional. I did not do the double folded collar on this. I just knit single folded and bound off with a sewn bind off. And I will say, okay, one thing is that I used to not swatch at all. That bit me in the butt a few too many times. So now I swatch, but I don't always listen to my swatch. So for this project, I swatched. The pattern is written for 14 stitch gauge. I swatched and I think I had a 15 stitch gauge, and I was like, okay, that's fine. And I just cast on with the needles. I didn't change my needle size at all. And now I kind of wish I had. So this fabric is quite structured. It's not super drapey. There's a good amount of structure to it. I think if I had gone up half a needle size, I knit this on a 6mm needle. I think if I had done a 6.5 or a 7, it would be a little bit looser, a little bit drapier. I knit the size 4, the size D, which is the 4th size in the pattern. But I ended up with the dimensions of the size C, which is totally fine. Like, it fits with a good amount of ease still. I think I figured out that the perfect chest circumference for a sweater for me, like my standard, is 116 centimeters, which is about 25 centimeters of positive ease, give or take. And that's where this one landed. So I think I'm glad that it's not more oversized. If it was a little more oversized, it would maybe look a little bit more like my original inspiration, but I am still really happy with how this fits. But I just think the fabric maybe would have loosened up a little bit more. I expected it to loosen more because it's unspun. I expected it to bloom. And also this yarn, I wish I had it handy so I could show you. Let me grab a strand, a couple strands to compare. All right, so if you're familiar with unspun yarn at all, you know that it just kind of comes in this pin drafted form. Hold on, let me unravel. It just comes in these like pin drafted strands like this. It's just, there's no twist in it. It's just a strand of wool, and it is kind of delicate. Like, you can pull on it and it will pull apart and break. I've knit with a fair amount of unspun, and so I started to understand the differences between them. And I would say the Brazen Little is much more dense and much more, like, it's hard. You have to exert some amount of force to get the strands to pull apart. Like, I'm pulling to get those strands to come apart, right? And then you can see that, like, this, I'm not sure that you can see, but I want you to be able to see. The fiber in the strand is quite densely extruded. And then when you pull it apart, it can definitely add some more air. And when you wash it, it blooms up a lot. Whereas some other unspun yarn, so this is the Hillesvåg unspun yarn. Let me find an end, or just like a bit that you can see. This is so much airier. Like, this is basically a see-through strand of very, very loosely held together wool. I'm going to hold these two strands next to each other just so that you can kind of see what I'm talking about. The density of the fiber in the Briggs & Little yarn is much higher than the density of the fiber in the Hillesvåg yarn. Let me see this. Okay, that's maybe a little bit better. This just looks a lot fuzzier. There's so much more air in here. The fibers are not as tightly compacted as they are in this. And like this, I can tug on and it's fine. This, if I tug on, there's a lot more elasticity and it's much more inclined to fall apart. This is Mantelopes by Wool Dreamers. And it's also a lot lighter and looser. So all of that to say is that this yarn is quite dense, and I was expecting it to open up more when it blocked than it did. It's still quite dense, which I think will be good for pilling. Like, I've only worn this a couple of times and there are still some pills on it that I can pick off, but I think it's going to pill a lot less than some of the other unspun yarn that I have worked with in the past. I've used this yarn to make an accessory before, but never a garment, so I'm interested to see how it wears over time. A lot of people hold mohair with unspun yarn to kind of combat the pilling that's basically inevitable with a yarn that doesn't have any twist in it, because there's nothing holding the fibers together besides the knit stitches. But I generally don't like to hold mohair with things because I feel like it obstructs the texture of the main yarn. So like, it changes the composition, which for some people that may be what you're looking for, but a lot of times I want to like feel the wool and like I want the wool to shine, and so that's why I tend not to use mohair. Also, I just don't think everything needs to be fuzzy. But all that to say is that I think a three strands of mohair version of this cardigan, like it's originally intended, would be beautiful. So there's a time and a place for mohair. I just tend not to use it in a lot of instances. So yes, this is quite dense fabric, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. I love the color. It's so gorgeous. It's just very striking. I'm really happy with it, and I think it looks very professional. Another note before we move on about the construction, so that because this pattern is written for mohair, 3 strands of mohair, which is a very light and delicate fabric, it's written to have, it has these pearl bumps along the bottom of the arms, the sides of the body, that you're supposed to seam up, like mattress stitches together to add some integrity, structural integrity to the fabric. I wasn't sure when I cast this on if I was going to need that. And so I was thinking about just omitting the faux seams, but I ended up leaving them. But I think for right now, I've decided that I haven't stitched them up, obviously. Like you can see there's a seam here. And I don't think it looks bad to have the faux seam, but I also don't feel like I need to sew it up right now. So I'm just leaving it, and maybe sometime I'll sew it up. But for right now, I don't think the garment needs that added structure because again, the yarn has a good amount of body to it. So I'm just going to leave it for now, and if at some point in the future I want to seam it, I can, and that's totally fine. I used a little more than 450 grams of yarn for this. It's held double. This yarn comes in big 227 gram cakes of yarn, and there's 5 strands of yarn like wound in the cake together. So I had to like pull the whole thing apart into 2 strand balls. So like basically I took 2 strands in one hand and 3 in the other, and like pulled the whole thing apart and then wound it up. And I did the same thing for the one that had 3. I took 2 out, and then I ended up winding out the 1 strand. I just wound it up double on itself. So you get a lot of yardage that way. And I needed to break into my 3rd cake, but like just barely. So your mileage may vary, but I ended up using about 450 grams of yarn for this, so maybe a little bit more, which is pretty standard for a sweater for me, so I'm not that surprised. And so I have almost a whole cake of this yarn left over, which I can use to either add some length to the sleeves or make another project. I may make my daughter Caroline a little red cardigan to match. I think for hers I would do single-stranded. So yes, there's my feather cardigan. I also ended up using these not tortoiseshell, I think they're a faux mother of pearl button. I had a bunch of different button choices, and this is what I landed on. I'm really happy with them. I feel like they look a lot like my inspiration picture, which also uses mother of pearl buttons. I was thinking I would use red buttons originally, but the ones that I got were the wrong color of red, and I just didn't love the look of it. So I'm really happy with these. I think it looks really cute. So far I've only worn it buttoned up, but I think it would also be really nice as just like an open cardigan. So yeah, that's my feather cardigan by the Knit Pearl Girl. I really like it, and I would probably make another one in the future. It knits up fairly quickly because it's at quite a large gauge, and overall, I really love her. So it's finished object number 1. I did not finish it in time for my birthday, which was my goal, but I finished it in January, so that was still fun. And then my other finished object is very special. this is the Gooseberry dress by Knitting for Olive, which I knit for my daughter's first birthday, which is coming up here in about 2 weeks. She will be 1, which is kind of happy sad, you know. But I wanted to make her a dress to wear at her birthday party and just kind of like to mark this milestone in her life. I've knit her a lot of things in her first year, and this just felt right. So I just finished this a day or 2 ago. So I have a couple weeks to spare. I was worried I wasn't going to get it done in time. But once I got through the skirt, the sleeves and the yoke went super fast. And all in all, I think when I showed this to you last, it was just the lace on the bottom. So I spent a good amount of time working on this, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I do need to put a button on the back still. I haven't put the button on, but other than that, it's done. It's really, really cute. So you start at the bottom and you do this lace, which is knit horizontally, and then you graft it together with Kitchener stitch. It's not very many stitches, so it's super quick and easy. And then you pick up stitches and then knit bottom up, which gives you these really beautiful, subtle, but really pretty lines of decreases as you're going up the skirt that I think just add like a tiny touch of interest that maybe when it's back here you can't really tell, but I think close up it just looks really nice. And they're kind of in these rows, so it's got like a good amount of structure, and I don't know, it's really pretty. And then in the yoke you just do all these decreases. You do the sleeves bottom up and then join everything and then round and finish the yoke. The edges are all finished with I-cords, so around the neck and the sleeve cuffs are also knit with I-cords, but they're pretty stretchy. My girl's a little chunky, but she still fits in here perfectly fine. On the theme of swatching and then ignoring my swatch, this pattern is written to be 28 stitches per 10 centimeters and with knit on 3mm needles, and I swatched with that and I got 30 stitches per 10 centimeters. But so I was thinking I would go up a quarter needle size to a 3.25, but quite a few people left comments on my last video that the Knitting for Olive patterns tend to run a little bit large. So I decided not to size up, and so my project is 30 stitches per 10 centimeters, and it actually fits her just fine, with even a little bit of room to grow. She's kind of chunky, but she's not huge. Like, she still wears a lot of 6 to 9 month clothes, even though she's almost a year old. So as long as the fabric has a little bit of stretch, I think it will fit her for at least, the rest of this winter. Because this was for her first birthday, I wasn't so worried about making it so that she could wear it for a really long time. I didn't want to like have to roll up the sleeves or make a lot of modifications to it, because I just want this to be like a dress for her a special dress for her special day. So it fits her really well. I was maybe thinking about making the 18-month size, but there is very, very little difference between the 12-month size and the 18-month size. There's like almost no difference in the stitch count in a lot of places, but sometimes I think like the body is just a little bit longer and maybe the sleeves are a little bit longer, but other than that, it's really not that different. So I'm perfectly happy with this. It fits her quite well and it's gorgeous. I actually like the color. I know it's kind of sad beige, but it's like a pinky beige. I think it's cute and it looks good on her. I mean, she has very similar coloring to me. Her hair is a little bit lighter, and she has really bright blue eyes. So I think it looks cute on her. And I'm really happy with it. I think it's beautiful. I really liked the pattern. I thought it was well written. It was very simple, straightforward, like very Scandi pattern, kind of petite knit writing style. But I'm really happy with it. I would definitely knit more of the Knitting for Olive baby patterns in the future because they're so cute. And yeah. Also, this used I think exactly 125 grams of fingering weight yarn. The yarn that I used is the vintage 100% superwash wool cone that I found at a thrift store that I've had for years and thought this would be perfect for it. So yeah, I used 125 grams of that yarn. So if you wanted to make this with Knitting for Olive yarn, you would need just 3 balls of their merino or cotton merino or whatever. You could also use Sendis Garn Sunday, although that yarn pills a lot, and I think this yarn feels a little bit toothier than that, so I'm hopeful that it will be nice and sturdy. She's also like, it's not like she's going to be rolling around on the floor that much in this. Maybe she will, I don't know. But all in all, I'm really happy with it. I think the last thing I want to do before her birthday is make a little bow out of the same yarn for her to wear in her head. I think I'll just do like a little I-cord, either an I-cord, well, an I-cord would be good because there's I-cord details on here, and then just put it on a clip and we can put it in her hair. So yeah, that's the finished Gooseberry dress. I think it's so pretty and really sweet. I'm really proud of it. The lace was a pain because of all the baubles. I hate baubles, I'm gonna be honest. I did not like doing the border. I had to look at the chart the whole time and it's a lot of repeats. but the effect is so pretty. I think it was worth the effort, and I will do anything for my girl. So here it is. It's so cute. I think it's very me and hopefully very her. And if she wants a unicorn dress next year, that's fine. But she can't tell me what she doesn't like yet. So this is what we've gone with, and I really like it. It's so cute. So yes, that's my second finished object. My only other finished object for knitting. Okay, beyond that, I don't have a lot of knitting progress because I was really focused on trying to get those projects done this month. I have cast on my hand spun sweater, which I'm really excited about. If you are new, I spun a sweater's quantity of yarn last year, like the last, I think October, November, December, I was spinning. So I spun up 600 grams of 100% Shetland wool to like a DKA weight. And this is my first cake. It's very cute and tweedy. It's like a really warm gray. And I have cast on the Senin sweater by the Knit Pearl Girl, but I'm not doing the color work on it. I just wanted a simple drop shoulder, and I really liked the lateral braid details on this sweater around the neck and the cuffs and the interesting sleeve shaping. So that's why I chose this sweater. And I'm really excited about it. I'm having a good time so far. Here's the fabric knit up. I think it's beautiful. I love how the stockinette like just really lets the tweedy texture of the yarn show. And this back yoke is also shaped with increases, which sometimes I struggle with because I find that the tension can be a little bit difficult. Like you really have to stretch it while blocking to get it to lay nicely. But I'm just trying to be really mindful of my tension when I'm making my increases. And yeah, so far I think it's really cute. My yarn is definitely like thick and thin, a little bit, what is it that they say on the Great British Bake Off? Rustic. Both in texture and in like uniformity. But I'm really happy with it. I think it's going to be gorgeous. I'm also knitting this in the size D, which should get me about my perfect 116 centimeter bust. So yes, I'm just going to keep plugging away on this. I'm not loving this at the beginning because you have to increase on both the front and back, and I just find that annoying. But I'm excited to join this in the round, frankly, and just have something nice and mindless to knit on in the round for a little bit. So that's my hand spun sweater. I'm not in a huge rush to finish this. It's sweater weather in Washington where I live until like June basically. So I don't think I need to finish this by like the end of the month to be able to wear it, but we'll see. And yeah, I'm just enjoying knitting with this yarn that I made. I've spent so much time with this fiber in my hands already between the spinning and then the plying and now knitting that it's just like it's such nice fiber. It's from World of Wool. It's their 100% Shetland carded bat. It's beautiful fiber. It's super soft. It's so sheepy. It has a lot of VM and all Kemp, or what's that stuff called? Kemp? And like all sorts of fiberies in it and nups, and I just really am enjoying it. I enjoyed spinning it. I'm enjoying knitting with it. I'll be sad when it's over, so I'm not in a rush to finish it. Yes, and then my other work in progress is my grow socks, which haven't really seen a lot of action because I was focused on my other projects, but here they are. I think I'm using a 50 gram ball of yarn from Little Fiber Company. It was like a one of a kind. And I usually prefer a 5-inch cuff on my socks, but I'm a little worried that I'm going to run out of yarn. So I think I'm just going to do a 4-inch leg. I'm almost there. And then I will also, this pattern has a heel flap and gusset. I think I'm just going to sub for a short row heel so that it uses a little bit less yarn and then keep going. And you know what? Maybe I'll get to the end of these and I'll run out of yarn and I'll have to redo an entire pair of socks, toe up. Let's hope that's not the case, but here we are. It's kind of hard to see the texture because I don't think that this was really the right pattern choice for this yarn. Part of me wants to like rip it out and start over again, because you can't really see the texture and I'm scared I'm going to run out of yarn. I don't know. What do you think? Should I just rip them out and go toe up? I mean, this is like a fair amount of time, but not that much time. I like the pattern. I would definitely make it again in like a solid color sock yarn, but I don't know. I feel like this isn't really doing the yarn or the pattern justice. Let me know what you think. I'm a little now that I'm looking at it again in the light of day, like you can't really tell that there's even texture on there. It's making me a little bit sad, and I am worried about running out of yarn. So maybe I do need to rip this out and do it again. Sound off in the comments. Let me know what you think. But I think my heart is telling me to start them over again, which is kind of sad because that was my Christmas Eve cast on. Okay, I'm going to just put this up because it's pissing me off. That was my Christmas Eve cast on. But my goal is really to have them done by the end of March. And so if I need to start them over again, it's fine. It's probably not going to hamper my ability to finish those in time. They're not like in time for anything, but that's just what I wanted to do. So, I'm gonna have to ponder on those a little bit more. Okay. And then I did not also make very much progress on my blanket this month. I'm making the Color Brick Road blanket by Pearl Soho. And I've been trying to do one stripe a month, and I only got like 2 blocks of this done this month, again because I was focused on the other stuff, but it's fine. I can knit that as long as I need to. It's not on the timeline, so I'll keep knitting away on that, and maybe it'll just take me some more time, and that's fine. So yes, that is my knitting for now. 2 very successful finished objects, a cute work in progress, and a work in progress that I'm now thinking I'm gonna frog. So yeah, I really feel that I've been really feeling the urge to cast on something new. And I do know that I'm going to make the Holger baby pants for Caroline, but I think I'm going to wait to cast those on until I go back to work in a couple of weeks and I have to commute several times a week, because those will be really good and easy and portable to take on the bus with me. The other thing that I think I want to cast on is another version of my self-drafted hat that I knit in the fall with my hand spun yarn. I want to use this yarn. This is Dream in Color Lamb and Goat fingering weight yarn. This was a gift that a friend gave me. And it's 90% New Zealand wool and 10% cashmere. And I think it would be a really cute little hat. It's like a yellowy greeny color. So yeah, that may be a new cast on. Yeah, this is the color Straw, 66.59. So yes, that might be a new cast on. I'm thinking about it. So yes, I'm also kind of in the mood for some color work. I don't know. I have a lot of plans and a lot of things I want to make, but nothing's really like reaching out and grabbing me right now. So we'll see next month what I end up bringing to my video to show you. But yes, that is that. Okay, let's go next to sewing, and then we'll talk about fiber. So I have this shirt that I've had for a while now. I got it at a thrift store secondhand. It's from Target. It's 100% cotton. It's just like a really basic raglan sleeve. So the sleeves are, we all know what a raglan is. And it has gathering around the yoke and buttons down the front. And it's just like a very basic top, but I really like it. I wore it a lot this summer when I was going back to work. It was really easy to breastfeed in and pump, and it just felt like really comfortable. I feel like if any of you have had a child, you know that after you have the child, your sense of fashion changes and what you want your wardrobe to look like, not just because your body has changed, but also because like you have a kid to follow around now. So I'm still trying to figure out my personal style. That's part of my goal for the year. But all that to say is I've really enjoyed wearing this shirt, and this is like a shirt that they don't make anymore. And so I have found it online on some thrift stores like ThreadUp, but they don't have a lot of color options. There's basically like one other color that I'm like kind of meh about. So I decided to make my own. So I bought another version of the shirt, like in the same size, from ThreadUp for like $5, and I unpicked it and used it to make pattern pieces to make myself a new version of the shirt. So this is my first version. This is my like kind of toile. I basically took the shirt apart, traced onto pattern paper, and then made a new shirt out of it, like basically reverse engineered the shirt. So here's my first version. This is just made in some mysterious fabric. I have this block print. I have a huge bolt of this fabric that I got at a thrift store for like $5 many years ago. So I use this fabric all the time when I'm making toiles or like first versions of things. But it turned out really cute. It's this like printed black and white flowers, and I feel like I did a really pretty good job of honoring the pattern. It's harder to see with the printed fabric, but it has the gathered around the neck, the raglan sleeves, the like kind of A-liney fit on the body, and the buttons down the front. So yes, I think the neck is a little bit looser on this version than the original. And the armholes I found were quite deep on my second version. So I went back to the pattern pieces I made, reconfigured them a little bit more to make them smaller, and I've now sewn a second version, which is almost done, but not all the way done. This is more fabric that I bought at the thrift store. And here it is. I think it's this blue stripe. So I think I want to go back and tighten up the gathering on the front. This is hard to see because it's not on a hanger. Hold on, let me show you this on a hanger so it looks a little bit neater. There we go. And there's no buttons on this yet, but here she is. I think I just sewed the neckline on. I think I want to go back and do it again and just tighten up the gathers on the front because it's really quite gathered in the back, but not very gathered in the front around the neck. Sorry if this is like just means nothing because you can't even see what you're looking at, but I don't know. I think I might make a little adjustment there, and then I just need to sew the buttons on and hem it, and that's good. So this is my second version. It's much smaller. I took out some length in the raglan, which then took out some width on the sleeves and the body. So it fits a little bit smaller, but still really nicely, and a lot of the other details are the same. It still has buttons down the front and an A-line shape. So yeah, that's my shirt that I'm working on. I think I'm going to make one more version in this really cute blue and white gingham. This is going to be my last version of my shirt, and then I don't know what, but yeah, that's what I've been sewing on. It's been really fun to kind of like, I haven't done a lot of like sewing pattern manipulation before, and so it was fun to like, the first time I made it was fun because I was just tracing pieces and that was like basically making a pattern. But then when I was trying to grade it down a little bit, that was really interesting. It took a little bit of thinking and math. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. So yeah, that's that. I'm also wondering, so it has buttons on the front. I'm wondering if for the blue version, the gingham version, if I'll do it without buttons down the front and just have it solid in the front. I'm not sure yet, but we'll see. But yeah, that's what I've been sewing on. It's been really fun and a good like creative exercise. So I've really enjoyed that. And that was a short section, but it's been really interesting. I like it. I'm not saying that I'm going to become a sewing pattern designer because I have no idea how to even start that. And there are some courses you can take online, but they're quite expensive and I just don't have the time or money to invest in that right now. But I have really enjoyed it and I think I would like to draft more sewing patterns for myself in the future. I also just want to do more sewing this year, making clothes that fit both my body and my style. So yeah, stay tuned for more sewing content from me. Okay, that's really all I have to say about that. My final topic of discussion for the month, today's video, is fiber. So spinning fiber. So if you've watched my videos for a couple months, I think back in October, November, I went to an estate sale and bought a couple of fleeces, like raw wool fleeces that I scoured, and I showed you the fleece that I had washed and started to hand card. But I had spun a little sample, but I had a lot of fleece to card still, and 2 fleeces that I haven't even touched that were still unwashed. And then I've been like trying, just like browsing around on Facebook Marketplace and stuff to see if I could find a drum carder, because I just figured with the volume of fleece that I wanted to process, it would be so much faster and easier on a drum carder. And I was looking for rentals, but there's nowhere around Seattle that you can rent a drum carder. There are quite a few places in Oregon, in Portland and Eugene and like that area, but I'm not going to go, that's far, like not a day trip for me, and I have a child that I have to take care of, so that's not like something I could do. So I was just like, I'll figure it out when I figure it out, and I'm not in a huge rush to spin this fiber. Well, my mother, who is my crafty partner in crime, she has encouraged me in all things raw wool processing, and she was talking to a coworker of hers who is also a spinner who has a drum carder and a really nice high quality electric drum carder. And I already had a visit planned to go see my mom in January, so she's like, okay, well, bring your wool and I'll borrow Diana's drum carder and we can card it. So I was like, okay, well, if I'm gonna fly all the way down to you and bring all this wool, I'm gonna just wash all of the fleeces that I have and bring it all, and we'll card all of it. So I washed 2 more fleeces, which ended up being like probably about 6 pounds of wool total for the 2 fleeces. And so I ended up, and then I took it all with me to my mom's house. Luckily we flew Southwest, so I could check it in a duffel bag for free. But so I think total I ended up bringing probably about 9 or 10 pounds of wool with me to my mother's house, and we carded for the entire long weekend. I think we were there from like a Wednesday night to a Monday night, and we carded basically all day the entire time. And now we both have several sweater quantities worth of wool to spin. So there were the 3 fleece. This was the first fleece that I scoured that you've seen before, and here it is, carded up on a beautiful Clemis & Clemis motorized drum carder. The terrible thing about this is that I had been looking and expecting to buy myself at some point, not soon, a hand crank drum carder. No, I've used a mechanical drum carder and I cannot buy a hand crank drum carder. It was so nice to use and so fast. So this is the first sheet that I washed that I showed you before. This is it's a 3 cross. So it's a Corriedale, Romney, Lincoln cross. Corriedale, I think, is like a down wool, and then Romney and Lincoln are long wools. So this fiber has a really long staple length. It's very shiny, but it is still really bouncy. So this is about, I think this is 750 grams of fiber, which is more than enough to make a sweater with. And there's some color variation in there. As you can see, like there's some darker bits and some lighter bits in the fiber, but it's this really beautiful, like browny gray. And I am gonna spin this as a 3-ply to make the Esther jacket at some point. This is like probably I will make it in the fall. I'll spin it over the summer. Maybe I'll spin this during Tour de Fleece in the summertime and then knit that in the fall. But that's the first sweater quantity of fiber. It's so pretty. I'm really excited about that. I think I'm just gonna have to be intentional when I'm plying to make sure that like I do a good mix of all of these colors, and so that it's not super stripy when I knit it up. But I'm really excited about that. And then there was another Corriedale Lincoln Romney fleece that I had, and that one turned out to be like a pure white. So when I bought these fleeces, they were really dirty. There was a lot of dirt and a lot of lanolin in them, and frankly, this fleece and this fleece in their raw form looked the same. I had no way of knowing that this one was a white fleece and this one was a brown fleece, but it turned out that I had both. So this is probably about 750 grams of the same breed of wool, the same like combination, but in a white version. And I think it's beautiful. So pretty. So I have a sweater quantity of this. My mom also has a sweater quantity of this and a sweater quantity of this. She doesn't even have a spinning wheel, so I'm not sure when she's going to spin that up, but she'll do it. And then I have more. So the last fleece that I had was 100% border Leicester. It was this really dark brown color. Sorry, I don't want to take these out of their vacuum bags because they're stored really nicely in here and just like compressed. But it was a smaller fleece, and it was, I must say, such a pain to pick open. So I had to wash all this fleece, and then if you're not familiar, when you card wool, either hand cards or drum carder, you kind of have to like fluff it open to get some more of the grass and vegetable matter to fall out, any remaining dirt, and then just makes it easier to card. And the white and brown fleeces were super easy to pick open. I think because they were down wools, they were just like super fluffy, and my mom and I just sat for a couple hours and like fluffed those open. This dark brown fleece, I probably spent like 5 hours picking it open because it's really shiny. It's a long wool, but I think this was a lamb. It's really shiny. It's very smooth. And so like it's dark. So you could see all of the dirt and stuff in it. And it just took so long to pick it open. But I have probably 700-ish grams of that 100% border Leicester. And then I had some yak fiber as well. And so I ended up blending another probably 700 grams, 80% border Leicester and 20% yak. So that's what these dark blobs are. This light blob that you're seeing here is that same brown Corriedale cross blended with 20% Angora fiber that I bought at the same estate sale. There was just like a thing of Angora, and so I bought that and just figured, like we'll see how it blends. And that one was really challenging because the Angora fibers are really short and the wool fibers were really long, so I had to put it through the carder a lot of times. I'm interested to see how it spins. I'm not sure how it's going to turn out. We'll see. And then just for fun, my mom and I did this kind of like experiment where okay, I'm gonna open this. Here is like one of the bats. I think this is just the plain. Okay, this is the 7030 Border Leicester Yak. It's so beautiful and shiny, isn't it? Like, ooh, it's not soft, I will say. It's pretty coarse. I think this would be like a good outerwear piece. Ooh, maybe I'll spin this to make the Nomad jacket by Wool & Beyond. That's a fun idea. The Nomad jacket is a honeycomb brioche jacket. That's a kind of a fun idea. But it's very shiny. It's got a really nice staple. Like, oh, it's so pretty. So that's my Border Leicester Yak. This is the plain Border Leicester, and this is the Border Leicester Yak. I'm not sure there's a huge, you can really see a difference in them. But yes, those are those. And then just for fun, I thought it would be interesting to dye some of the fiber and kind of blend it in the carder. So we did the same colors of dye on the white fiber and the brown fiber. And this is what we ended up with. So this is on the white fiber and this is on the brown fiber. It's the same 4 colors of dye and then kind of blended them together. It was like an experiment. I'm not sure we did the best job of picking the colors, and I picked them, so that's on me, not my mom. But we did 2 blues, a green, and like a peachy color. So here's the bat opened up. You can kind of see how it's blended. I'm gonna probably regret opening this up, but here it is. You can kind of see that peachy color through there a little bit. So I'm intrigued to see how this will spin. It might be really ugly. It might not. I don't know. Like it was a fun experiment. So we'll see how that turns out. It was a good, yeah, there's the peach. So it was an experiment. Turns out it's hard to pick colors and blend things, but I'm excited to spin those up. I'm not like in a rush to spin any of this because I have a lot of other things to be doing, but yeah, there's my dyed fiber. And we did the same colors. I really actually like how the darker one turned out. I think the colors are more moody, more muted. So yeah, that was kind of fun. Yeah, so that was my fiber journey. I spent honestly a lot of time this month working on the fiber prep, between washing the wool, picking the wool, carding the wool. That was like the first half of my month. I was mostly doing that, which is why I didn't end up finishing my cardigan in time for my birthday. But it's fine because I had a fun birthday weekend just carding a lot of wool. So yes, that is my fiber prep, and now I don't need to purchase any fiber basically ever again. Okay, that is it. That is all I have to talk about. I talked about knitting, we talked about sewing, we talked about fleece. I haven't done any spinning all month. I have not touched my wheel, so I don't have any of that to talk to you about. But yeah, that's it for me. It's been a very crafty month, and it's been very fun. I got a new sewing machine. It was like a treat myself for my birthday. I turned 29, and I've had my sewing machine, my old sewing machine. My mom bought it for me at a thrift store when I was in college, I think. I've had that sewing machine at least since I got married, and that was over 8 years ago. So it's old. It was old when I got it, and it just made me a little crazy. The bobbin, there was always issues with the bobbin tension, and the thread would jam, and like the machine is just tired. And it would jam all the time, and it was like an old mechanical machine with like a wheel to turn to choose the stitches, and the wheel started getting jammed, and I couldn't, like, it was just got to the point. I've been thinking about getting a new machine for years now, but my old machine got to the point where I could barely use it anymore, and so I was like, okay, it's time. So friends and family pitched in, and I bought myself a new machine. I can't really hold it up for you, but I will do some B-roll to show you it. It's beautiful. I got the Singer Quantum Stylist 9960. It's kind of like a mid-price range machine. I think it was about $500, which is not nothing, but is pretty reasonable for a sewing machine. And it makes beautiful buttonholes. Some of my like non-negotiables were a one-touch buttonhole, because my old machine was mechanical and I could never figure out how to get the buttonholes to look nice. So I have a one-stitch buttonhole, and there are a couple different programmable buttonholes. That's amazing. And then it's just so, like, it has so many fun features that I really like. I watched quite a few reviews before I bought this, and I'm really happy with it so far. I'm really happy with it so far. I've sewn both of those shirts on the machine and haven't had any issues so far. So I'm really happy with it. I love the automatic, like the thread cutter button. I love the different, like, it's just so user-friendly, I feel. And I'm really happy with it. So yeah, I feel like I'll give you like a more long-term review in the future if that's something that you're interested in. If this is a machine that you're interested in, I wouldn't like give me some more time to spend with it before buying it based on my review, but there are other people's reviews you can go watch. But first impressions, I'm really enjoying it. So yeah. Okay. I've talked for like an hour and I'm tired. So I need to clean up my mess and get on with my day. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you are doing well. Thank you for all the love on my past videos. It's been wonderful to chat with you. I hope you're doing great. So yeah, thank you all again for being here. I really appreciate it. And I will talk to you again very soon.